Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of FSI's NASCAR DFS Pick Show. I'm your host, TK Nation 47, joined with Mega Ruler 31. Mega, good morning, and are you ready for some more road course racing?
No, I have to be. It's a little bit different though, because the last couple of road courses we had like Sonoma, and we had Washington's Glen and like Road America, circuit of the Americas. Those are actually true road courses. Now we're back to the pseudo road courses where it's Indianapolis Historic Motor Speedway, and we put up some cones and turns and stuff, which I think they have run Grand Prix here. So this is, I think, a lot different than Daytona and Charlotte, where they kind of created it recently. I think this is something that India has had in Intertrack before, so yeah. I don't think it's as obscure, but it's interesting. It's just so frustrating having like the same day like qualifying. I just wish they would have had practice like yesterday morning and then qualifying last night, so we'd be able to build our lineups. But now we have like such a short turnaround window, maybe about 3 hours between the end of qualifying and the race, and to make your lines and hope that people, don't fail tech and move to the back. Although we did see that with Chase Elliott the last week at Watkins Glen, and it worked out well for him. He still ended up second, starting dead last, being scored from like 10th. So it doesn't really affect it as much here. Although like in Xfinity, and when you're in the back, you're surrounded by worse cars. It's in these kind of road courses, you see a lot more chaos, especially. It seems like the Pied Piper going into the first turn, whoever is like on the pole ends up like 10th because the first 10 cars go the wrong way and everybody else passes them, and it eventually rights itself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it here for Indianapolis. We did get practice yesterday afternoon, practice one. I think Austin Cindric led that.
Yes.
Yep. And then Justin Haley and Almond Dinger were our leaders in 10 lap averages. I think this is going to be a good race, but let's get into it while we can. We're just going to basically break down the field here and talk to you guys hypothetically who we like heading into today's race. Obviously, all 44 cars aren't going to qualify. We're going to have a couple of cars not make the field. I believe it's 40 are going to race
usually.
So let's keep our eyes peeled after qualifying, who we're going to get for the race and where they're going to start. So if you want that quick information and insight into how things will shake out after qualifying is over with today, you can find that link in our bio, and that is on our Twitter handle at FSI_DFS. And follow the link, follow the prompts, and find your way to us in the NASCAR channel, and we will be able to provide you with all the cutting edge news and projections and core lineups that you need for your race day today and tomorrow, because we're going to get much of the same for tomorrow for the Cup. So get in today while you can for the weekend, and let's get to it. We got the Pennzoil 150 at the Brickyard, 62 laps. So it seems like place differential is probably going to be a premium when it comes to scoring well today. I don't think we're going to get a lot of dominator points, a lot of lead laps points. So place differential probably on the back of my mind, as well as finishing position. Based on your model here, and I want you to go through it when you can with what you can. Austin Cindric starting out first in our driver rating. So go ahead and detail us a little bit about Cindric in the model you have.
Well, the model is basically, if you're looking at this, it's just a model. What I did was I took their qualifying, where they ended up with qualifying, and then that's how I ranked them as their starting position, as if it was, as their practice. So I used practice as if it was qualifying. Then I didn't use any track data because most of them, some of them ran here last year in Xfinity. I could have looked at the Daytona road course, but I just skipped the track model. So it's their season statistics versus we've run 6 road courses this year. So there's the Daytona road course, the Circuit of America, the Miami, Ohio one, Road America, Watkins Glen last week, and then I threw in the Indianapolis 20 statistics too to kind of come up with a composite speed. So you'll see, like, and I'll explain as we go. Like Cindric definitely comes out number one in the ranking here, just based on like he hasn't had an average running position below sixth any of these races this year, and having a fine season. So he's definitely the clear favorite.
Yeah, Cindric is basically the man when it comes to Xfinity road course racing. He even gets, opportunities in the Cup cars for the road courses, racing for, I believe, the 33 Penske. So, yeah, Austin Cindric's going to be a very popular play today. I expect him to be in the majority of lineups, and regardless of where he starts, he's always a play when it comes to Xfinity road courses. Next up, we have Sam Mayer, 9K, Junior Motorsports. I don't mind this play. I played him last weekend. Yeah, I'm just not sure if he starts too high, what to do with him and who he's going to be around. So I'm keeping my eyes and my tabs on Sam Mayer heading into today.
Yeah, last week he was a good play because he started 23rd, and a lot of people were off him, and I don't blame him because he was really good in trucks. But as you can see, Road America, his average running position was 30th, really struggled. He ended up finishing 10th last week, had an average running position of 15. And like his projection looks really, really bad just based on that 30. Second fastest in practice. I don't see him finishing top 5. So if he starts anywhere outside the top 10, I think he's a good play. If he starts in the top 10, I think he's a GPP with a little bit of upside. But if he starts in the top 5, then I think he'll be a fade for me.
I think that's a great assessment and perfectly said. Next up, we have Justin Haley in the 11 for College Racing. Haley is pretty good on road courses. Let's hope we get, maybe typically Haley is starting inside the top 10. So I'm just going to, like, when I think of Haley, I think of him starting inside the top 10. Is he finishing inside the top 5 today? That's always the question with Justin Haley.
His last race at Watkins Glen, he finished 9th. So that was his probably his worst road course race, and finishing 9th, if you're saying it's worse, means he's pretty good. Yeah. I think that he has top 5 upside here, definitely. So again, I would look for him if he started 6th or worse, then I would definitely play him. If he screws up in qualifying or something and like goes off the track and ends up in the 30s, and just lock him. Because I think he's going to be a nice pivot, because we're talking pre-show here. There are 3 10K drivers that are probably going to be absolute locks for most people, because there's 2 guys that are DK screwed up the pricing on that you can play that are definitely viable drivers, and that leaves you someplace in the 8K range to finish out your lineup. So I think a lot of people are not going to be patient to wait to see how this plays out, and they just want to set it and forget it, and like maybe put in some money just to get their DK achievements, are going to play the 3 top 10K drivers and those 2 guys. So I think that Haley is a nice pivot off of one of them, if you can figure out which one it's going to be. And I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, Mega. You nailed it there with that assessment. If you reach up to get Haley with some of those 10K drivers, it's definitely a formidable strategy going into today for GBPs. Next up, we have Kevin Harvick. Not typically a road course guy to target, especially over 10K in Xfinity with BJ McLeod, and maybe there's a little bit of Stuart Haas in the mix, but Kevin Harvick hasn't been having a fun year having to race all these road courses.
No, and I think he's doing this just to get experience. In Xfinity, he has raced quite a few of them there. He was here at Coda. He did Road America, and so this would be his 3rd one. So his composite's 5th overall, but then again, he hasn't run all of them, so he hasn't had the chance to have as many issues. like you said, he's not traditionally a road course driver right now in his career. Earlier in his career, he was a little bit better. So I think he's definitely a GPP play and interesting, especially if he qualifies like outside the top 10. So I think he's the one that has upside, but he's definitely a pivot. He's not one of the 10K guys that most people will look for. So I'd rather take Haley as to differentiate my lineup. But if you want to take Harvick, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just so much going on here in the 10K range. I think I might find myself off of Kevin Harvick, but hey, he's probably going to have some lower ownership. So next up we have AJ Almond Dinger starting in the 5th spot. Well, not starting in the 5th spot. Sorry, potentially starting in the 5th spot for the 16 car College Racing road course guru. I mean, what more does there need to be said about AJ Allmendinger in a road course?
So he's going to be, I think he's going to be 3 of 3 of the top 3 here. I think Cindric is definitely number 1, and Ty Gibbs, like, how can you discount him? He's had 5 road courses, and one of them he had a mechanical failure, so he couldn't finish it, but he's had 2 wins and 2 second places. So out of these, I know AJ was the road course ringer, and he was the guy that used to only run road courses. So you throw in Xfinity, he'd always start in the 30th because he didn't have any driver's points, and he would be like the stone cold lock of the slate. But I don't know if he's there anymore. Could he win this? Definitely. But I just see with the way Cindric's been and the way Gibbs has been. And one thing about Gibbs is Gibbs is doing it the right way. He could have, AJ had the lead last week towards the end, and Gibbs could have gone in and muscled him out of the way, but he didn't. He raced him clean through the corners, and on a straightaway, he outbraked him and he passed him cleanly, and he pulled away from him. And for a young driver, that is very admirable. Cindric is not like that, though. So I kind of look at the 2, and then maybe Cindric kind of worries me a little bit because I've seen him without fenders running road courses because he is a little bit too aggressive and not patient and trying to move people out of the way instead of being like Ty Gibbs and like surgically, weaving in and out and, picking his points and his marks and getting ahead of the drivers he needs to. So it's going to be quite interesting. But I think, like, out of all of them, I think AJ might be the one that I would pivot off for, like, Haley. But then again, like I said, Cindric's aggression might be the one too. So it's going to be hard. But I think Gibbs is definitely, I know we're going to get to him in a couple, but I think he's going to be the one that is the lock that I wouldn't pivot. Or maybe make, 3 lineups and put Justin Haley in, replacing each one of them in cash. Like, split your cash 4 ways. But again, we're gonna have to see how they qualify. A good thought.
Yeah, I like that thought. I think that's pretty sound. So there we have it on the top 3. Riley Hurst sitting here 6th in the model for now. Not really a guy I'm targeting on road courses, so I think I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, I have him as a cash play just because I like his pricing. He's in Chase Briscoe's car last year, which did really well in road courses. Indy last year, his average running position was 27th. He just really didn't have a good race. But if I take that out and you just delete that from the model quick, that moves him up to 8th overall for composite score.
Yeah.
So he's having a decent season with these road courses, and I like the pricing. So we'll just have to see. Again, he just hasn't been great in this car, but I mean, that's been more on like speedways. So interesting. I like the price.
Interesting is where we'll leave him. Next up, we have Noah Gragson at 9,700. Probably a wild card in this scenario of gentlemen we've talked about already. There's just not enough room to play everyone, and I think Gragson just gets squeezed out of here.
Yeah, and like I said, he's always the first guy that I put in my GPP lineups just because he is decent at these road courses. And last year, where you had I think it was like Cindric and Almond Dinger like banging each other the whole place, and he just like quietly went out there for once and did his job and wasn't too aggressive, and actually ended up finishing third, I think. So I
Yeah,
think he's
that's
got a
good.
lot of upside, but then again, he always has a lot of faults. But on road courses, it seems like he's been better than speedways. So he's definitely gonna be the first guy in my GPPs.
Okay. Next up, we have Jeb Burton, 7,700. I had interest here in Jeb, hopefully banking on the top 15 start, or maybe outside a top 15 start. Obviously, colleague racing qualifies pretty well, so you're probably not likely to get that, but I don't mind Jeb Burton in that price tag at 7,700.
Yeah. Um, he's he's decent, like good program and everything. So how many more races do we have for the playoffs? Are they set, or is
Okay, so if we want to look at the standings real quick for the Xfinity Series, we have,
so Herbst is right on the line right now. He's 30
yeah,
outs.
it is top 12. No, Herbst is in currently. I think Xfinity is top 12.
Okay.
Trucks is top 10. Yeah, so Herbst is in at 12th. Myatt Snyder is in 13th. Brandon Brown 14th. Barry has enough points for 15th. Sieg 16th. Ty Gibbs is 17th. Obviously, he doesn't have that many races in. Jeb is 6th. Haley 7th. A lot of guys that are probably solid in on points. I'd say it's a race between Clements at 10th and then Brandon Brown at 14th. So we have like 5 drivers racing for 3 spots.
Right. You can take Barry out of there because he's not racing this week, and he's already won a race, so he would have automatically qualified if he ran enough races to qualify for the playoffs.
Arlington, Richmond, and Bristol. So we have quite a bit of races left to go. I think 6 altogether to determine who's going to make those final 3 spots. So yeah, I can see people being aggressive, trying to win races now, or I can see people trying to get some stage points before they get out of the road course alive. So we'll see how that affects Jeb Burton. I think he's firmly in play with the win this year. And we had already discussed Ty Gibbs, that is next in 9th on the model. I think we could pretty much leave it at where we left off, where we were talking about Almond Dinger and Cindric, where he probably lock in with the way that he's been driving on road courses. Alex Labay, 7,200. Seems like too high of a price tag for Alex Labay. Anything else you wanted to add on him?
He killed me last week. He lost his rear gear or transmission or something, and he finished 39th. He was an outstanding play last week.
Yeah.
He's a really good road course driver too. He's got a lot of experience. So other than that, like if you take out Road America, like he's average running position is usually like in the 16s. So if he qualifies outside the top 20, then I'm definitely interested with him at 6 or 7,200. I think the pricing's good for, like, he's somebody that could have a top 15 car. So
yeah,
if the spec doesn't break down, but I don't think he's had many breakdowns this year.
I don't think he has either for the 36. Yeah, Alex Labay, a guy we're targeting here if you can qualify poorly. Next up, we have Brandon Jones, 8,800. Brandon Jones is not the first thought I have when it comes to road courses. So unless something drastic happens, I think I'm out.
LeBay has a 20% DNF rate, so that's not too bad. Brandon Jones, yeah, it's the same thing. Even though it's a Joe Gibbs car, I think he's a GPP and not really a road course guy for me.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, he finished 6th last week after starting 21st, but it's a different style of road course.
You got it. Yep. Sage Karam.
Yeah.
I don't know how to. Sure. The guy starting in the Jordan Anderson 31. I don't know much on him. Is there any deep dive that we have on Sage?
He's an indie racer.
Okay. So
So
he's maybe seen the course.
yeah,
Okay.
but he's never won in the Indy Series. He's a average driver. He's probably
He's
let's
turning
let's
laps
call, let,
today.
let's call him the Daniel Hamrick of Indy racing.
Okay. He's turning laps today.
But the car is decent. It all depends on where he his average running position and like what he has done in similar stuff is 20s. So if this car starts in the 30s or low 20s, then I think he's playable. This
Sure.
Jordan Anderson car has been decently fast and okay on road courses with other drivers. So
Yeah.
I think
Tyler Reddick's taking a
interesting.
shot
It's
here.
an interesting play.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think, yeah, we've had some decent drivers in the Jordan Anderson 31. I'm not sure
Although
what to do with him.
although I don't know how much money this team does, but Eric Jones did wreck it last week. So I
All right.
if they use the duct tape and bubble gum to put it back together, then that might be an issue. But if they actually have multiple cars and are good to go, then just a point I wanted to bring up.
Yeah. Next up, we have Justin Allgaier in the 7 for Junior Motorsports 9,900. I don't mind Justin Allgaier, but obviously I'm more into him on high tire wear tracks. This is a road course. What are your thoughts on Allgaier and hopefully what we can do with him this week?
He did really well last year here. Besides Road America, he's had a really decent season in road courses. Last week he was on the pole and he held his own up there. He finished below the three kings. It was Gibbs, Almond Dinger, Cindric, and Allgaier was fourth. And I said up earlier, I didn't think that Meyer would hit the top five because I think, the top five is going to be Cindric, Almond Dinger, Gibbs, Haley, or Allgaier and Haley. So I think he's got top five potential. We just have to, if he 13th speed in practice, if he starts like below the top 10, then he's somebody to consider. But again, he'd have to be one of the pivots off of, we'd have to see who's in a better situation, Allgaier or Haley, if we're going to make one of them a pivot off of the three kings.
I would have to agree. Next up, we have Brett Moffitt in the O2R Motorsports vehicle 6,100. This is a play. If he starts in the back, I think he's going to get a lot of ownership, but I think it's the right play at 6,100.
You got to be careful though, because there have been races where we're like, oh, well, Brett Moffitt's starting in the top 15. He's never going to hold it. Didn't play, ends up in the top 10. And, with his pricing was in the, some of the winning lineups. But last week we thought, okay, he's starting ninth and he's a good road course driver, cheap price. We can punt him. He's going to hold his own. What's the worth? He can finish his 15th. He finished 26th. So, but then again, that's a different style of road course. So I think he's definitely playable. We'll just have to see where he starts. If he starts below the top 15, I think I'd be more in than if he starts in anywhere in the top 15.
You got it. Next up, we have Harrison Burton and Daniel Hamrick, 15th and 16th. Two Joe Gibbs cars here, 92 and 9,500. I think these two are kind of falling in the same category as Haley and Allgaier, but I don't think they're as strong as a play as Haley and Allgaier. Would you tend to agree? And is there any other extra information we're missing here on these two?
I disagree with Burton. I think that he is a top five driver. He finished fifth last week. He started fourth and he pretty much hung in the top five for most of the race. So I like him. Hamrick, he just can never seem to win anything. And his first win is not coming at this course. So I think he's got top 10 potential depending on where he starts. But if he starts in the top 10, then I definitely wouldn't even consider him. But then again, these guys are 9K. So you're looking at knocking out one of the three kings. And this is more GPP play. I'd rather have Allgaier or Haley as one of my pivots, not one of these guys.
You got it. Next up, we have Snyder, 7,300. That one of these guys that are on the bubble. But I don't know much road course history on Myatt Snyder other than this year. So what are we looking at for the 2 car?
His composite is 10. It's not
Yeah,
bad. I mean, that's he started 7th last week, finished 15th. Was in the top 15 for average running position. So if he starts outside the 15th, you got to look and see him compared to LeBay and Herbst, like who has the most place
yeah,
differential upside, and then pick one of those 3 drivers. I think in that range works.
perfectly said. I think that's spot on. Next up, we have Wilt Rogers.
Hey, we found another cowboy for our band.
Yeah, that's right. Lead singer of the Cowboy Band. Where's Austin Wayne self? Oh, not in the field. Well, we got.
But he's the bass player.
Yeah, that's right. Will Rogers for Sam Hunt Racing, 5,500. That's super cheap. I don't mind this play. I think there's others, but I think it could be a decent GPP pivot depending on where he starts.
I'm just a little bit concerned that Sam Hunt Racing is usually tries to get 1 card into the field, and now they're trying to get 2 in.
Mhm.
So it's decent equipment, but are they spreading their resources too thin, trying to figure this out this week? The other one is Kyle. There's Chris Wright, who I think Will Rogers is definitely the better driver here. He's got plenty of experience in the KNS series, which is like 2 steps below, because you have like the Menard series below this, and then the KNS series is more of a regional series. So he has done a lot of road course driving and has experience, and he has a 1 win. I think it was on the Sonoma track, which is more of a standard road course than this like Grand Prix style one. But still, I think he's very interesting at the price. We just have to see where he qualifies.
Absolutely. Next up, we have Preston Pardus in the DGM Racing 90 car. The price tag is bumped up because he's typical value play when it comes to road courses, with the typical starting spots in the back due to poor qualifying. But I'm wondering if the price tag is too high for me to taste.
You're really going to have to let's talk with Laley too, because it's almost an identical situation. They're both in cars that Pardus is in a little bit better car. I think I'd prefer DGM over McLeod.
Yeah.
They're $400 apart. I think Laley is definitely the better driver, but they're both road course guys. But you need these 2 to start in the 30s for this price tag to really pay off. And last week, Preston Pardus started 35th. He ended up 23. It worked. But if they're starting with qualifying, the reason they started back there was because of driver's points, and most of these cars for these owners are really bad on ovals. But you throw some road course ringers in here, then they're definitely going to shoot up from the 30s into like the top 20. But if they qualify anywhere close to the top 20, then you definitely got to be out on them.
I couldn't agree more. Next up, we have the driver that we have so elegantly killed off this year, and that is Josh Williams in the 92. Poor guy was riding such a good year until we started to play him, and now he's down to a $4,900 price tag, and certainly not one to be considered today.
I disagree. Last week he started 19th, he finished 14th. Same pricing, so he helped open up a lot. If LeBay didn't lose his engine, I had a wonderful lineup. Like I ended up cashing, but I had like super high potential had LeBay finished it with the guys I put in, and Josh Williams helped it make it possible. So if he starts outside the top 20 at this pricing, I would take him over all the rest of these guys that we're going to start to talk about towards the bottom. So if he qualifies 25th or worse, I'm definitely think he's worth playing, especially if those are trying to get 3 10K guys in.
Trying to strike lightning twice. Next up, we have Josh Bilicki in the 07 for the SS Greenlight Racing Machine. I think this is a guy that is subbing in for a driver that is already out. are pulled out
No.
6,900.
I think I was wrong on that. I think it was JJ Yaley that took his spot. I
Okay.
think Blicky
Uh,
was definitely in the field here. And Blicky
uh,
teaches people how to drive on road courses. He wasn't bad last week. He started 30th. He finished 24th. He might not be in the 07. I'll have to check that. He was in the 17 last week, which was a much better car. So I think, again, if he starts in the 30s, 69 is a little bit much of an ask, but if you end up in that price range, I think he's okay.
okay. Next up, we have the ultimate disrespect in price tag history, and it is Brandon Brown, 5,200.
Yeah, that is clearly an error, and I think he is going to be one of the highest owned drivers there. He's not a great road course driver, but he's not horrible. He's top 20 definitely. At that price, if he's outside the top 20, then definitely he's a lock in. That's why I have him as one of my prime plays.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to want to see which one of these guys from like 6,300 on down. We'll talk about a few others later, but
he's got four top 15s in road courses this year. So like, what DK, what are you doing?
All right, it makes no sense. Certainly, if Brandon Brown qualifies inside the top 5, that totally changes the outcomes, and it makes you, rethink your strategies as far as that goes. But yeah, if he even qualifies 20th, I'm still interested at 5,200. All right, next up we have Mike Skeen. I don't know too much about him from JD Motorsports. 6,700 seems like too expensive.
He's got some experience in like Euro cars or something maybe, but with the equipment, with the pricing, not knowing much about him, he's probably going to have very low ownership. I'm just looking at some of his numbers, and just looking at the numbers from that car from other drivers on road courses, it's not a great program. So yes.
Fade. Next up, we have Jade Beauford in the 48 big machine racing machine. Buford's a guy I like to play, mostly if he's starting in the back of the 30s, because he's had some decent speed this year. 6,400 seems like it's too expensive though, unless I try to, like you said, pivot off of one of the 3 Kings and go with Haley, and I might need to grab a guy in the 6K range. I wouldn't mind Beauford in that with that theory going, but I'm just hoping he doesn't qualify too high.
Right, and that's the danger here. But he is a very good road course driver. He finished last year in the top 15 in this same race, and if you compare him to Blicky, you're saving $500. Definitely better tech, better driver, better situation.
Agreed. Next up, we have Tommy Joe Martins, the basis of our country Xfinity band, and Matt Jaskell, probably the guy on the soundboard.
It's a producer.
Yeah, that's right. No interest from me from these two.
No, even as the 48, like Tommy Joe Martin, we play him a lot, but we not on a road course, and Jaskell either. So, and the next guy too, Austin Dillon's a fade. For me, he's
all right. So big talking point here. I mean, people are going to see Cup driver in the Xfinity Series 8,700. They're going to get that huge discount. I could see him picking up ownership from some of the neutrals of the DraftKings circuit.
Yeah, his car broke down last week. He didn't even make it to the end of the race. He finished 37th. So, and that's even when he started 33rd. So that means that he, people played him because they're like, oh, look at all this place differential. And we're very, very disappointed.
Exactly. Austin Dillon is not a good road course driver, no matter how much experience he gets. And he's got a pretty crappy car. So perfect there to talk about. Hopefully you guys can avoid taking the temptation of them. If you land on them, try to find you someone like Haley, or even dropping below 8,500 and finding maybe Lally starting in the back, something like that. Next up, we have Jeremy Clements. I like this play, 6,300. Definitely a good road course guy. Hopefully he's not qualifying too high today.
Right, and he did really, really well at Indy. So it looks like he struggled a little bit in practice. Hopefully, if they don't figure things out, I think he can figure it out during the race. I really don't struggle with his the tech of his car. It seems, even though he's a single car team owner, last week he started 12th, which was a little bit high, finished 16th. So definitely has top 20 upside. Outside of top 20, he's a play. 6,300, between, if you're looking at guys like that, so you'd have to look at between him and Brett Moffitt, but Buford's only 100 more. So you got to kind of look at guys in the same price range and look at who has the most place differential. If all these guys are kind of similar, and then go with that one.
Agreed. Next up, we have Spencer Pumpelly, riding in the 0 for JD Motorsports.
I've been calling him Plumply, like his little doughboy. The guy probably weighs 110 pounds.
Yeah, Pumpelly. I don't know. I don't know much about him, so I'm out.
He's had a couple of races this season, nothing too spectacular. One of the races, Coda, he was finished in the top 17. Other than that, it's been in the 20s and 30s. So,
all right.
Yeah, and looking at his speed here, JD Motorsports is okay, but there's so many other better plays. Like I'd pay the 400 more for Clements, or like 200 more for Moffitt.
All right, next up we have Kyle Weatherman. 4,500 is really cheap if this guy starts very far into the back. I could see a world where I take him to fit. Maybe it's such an extravagant lineup up top.
But he's had so many tech issues. Like last week, he finished 34th. Like he had electrical issue. He's had many breakdowns this season. So a lot of his DNFs have been mechanical. So that's the only thing that worries me about him. But he is a decent road course driver.
Very well said. Next up, Landon Castle, 5K, JD Motorsports for the 4. This is one of the faster JD Motorsports vehicles, one of the better drivers as well. So I would say this is very place differential in play. Just depends on where he qualifies.
Yeah, he finished 20th last week, started 20th. So he's kind of a guy that usually finishes around where he starts. So if he starts outside the top 25, I think you can consider him. But again, you just got to look at other guys in the same price range. We'd prefer Brendan Brown, definitely, for probably about $200 more, or another guy that we're going to come to pretty soon for $100 more, or even the guy below him who has had years and years and years of European road course experience in a DGM car, which is a little bit better. You save $400 there. Again, you have to see like where Castle starts compared to Luis Hezman.
Yeah, you nailed it. Go. That is 4,600 for the gentleman in our 33rd spot. Yeah, I'm not gonna elaborate more on him. I think if you fall on him, I don't think it's the worst play if he qualifies poorly. But these next two I wanted to get to, that is Austin Hill racing in Hattori 61. This is usually Timmy Hill's ride. I think that's Austin Hill could be a strong value play today at 7K and balanced builds.
I don't know. I think he's GPP only for me, because he did one road course in Xfinity and he finished in the 30s. Like he really didn't have much success, although he won the truck race last week and he started on the pole and he pretty much held it throughout the whole race with some ringers in the field. So, I mean, that's really makes him intriguing. So I cannot play him in cash. But depending on where he starts, if he does start way down, having a decent car, I think he and Grayson would be the first two in my GPP lineup.
There you have it. Next up,
he's like that in trucks too. He's the first in every single series. It is Kyle Busch in Cup, it is Noah Grayson in Xfinity, and it's Austin Hill in trucks are always the first guy in my GPP.
So there you have it. All right, Ryan Sieg in the 51.
Here's the other
one of those value plays we were talking about. Yeah, Ryan Sieg going to be pretty popular today with a missed price at 51.
and he's on the cusp of the playoffs too. And they do all kinds of crazy pit strategies to try to get an advantage on the competition. Sometimes they swing for the fences and they do quite well. Sometimes they swing for the fences and strike out. Sometimes the bat comes up and hits them in the face, like it did when they didn't take any tires, and the whole field like blew past him, and then he ended up in the wall. But last week had a decent race. I think he finished 18th after starting 13th. So I think if he starts outside the top 15, then this is definitely another lock play with Brown. Like I said, it's probably going to be the Three Kings, Brown, Sieg for people that don't want to mess around with lineups, and they'll have like 8,500 left, and they'll figure out who the third guy is or the sixth guy is, and they'll just set it and forget it, get their achievement points, and hope for the best.
There you have it. Next up is Bailey Curry, 4,500.
If he starts dead last, maybe.
Sure. We also have JJ Yaley back here in the 17. He's, a very formidable driver, guy with experience on both road courses of any variety. So I don't mind him. 7,400 seems expensive, though. We're going to need him to start in the back of the pack.
Yeah. So this definitely a decent driver. When he's been in this series, he's done some nice things, and this is the better car. I said somebody else I thought it might be in the 17, but he's definitely going to be in the 17 now that I see my notes. Yeah, and this is the one that people were all excited because you're supposed to have a guest appearance by Max Pappas, who's been a really decent road course driver. He's William Byron's coach. He has done a lot of things for NASCAR, but I don't know exactly what happened that he couldn't run it in the race, but JJ Yaley's taken over for him in this ride. So I think Yaley is definitely a solid play. You just all have to, again, it's comparing him at 7,400 against, where's Myatt Snyder starting, where's Alex LeBay starting, where's Riley Hurst starting. People are just like, why are you putting JJ Yaley in the same breath as him? Well, he's an experienced driver. He has probably top 15 potential here, just as much as the other guys I just mentioned. Okay,
the next couple of drivers here we're probably going to be fades. Let me know if Maggie, Galding, and Wright. Any love for them four?
Wright's not horrible. He'd probably be the only one that I'd possibly consider out of this group. But like these guys are, if they're starting 40th and you're looking to try to figure out the last guy into your lineup, and you've got guys that are in this range that are starting like in the top 15, and you're thinking there's no way they're going to stay up there, then just pick the lowest starting one and hope for the best. I think that's where you go. But this Chris Wright's and Sam Hunt car, and they've been in the top 20. They finished in the 30s. He finished 17th last week. So I think at this pricing for Wright, if he ends up in the top 20, he could end up in, optimal lineups. But then again, it's just figuring out which cheap guy, whether it be Weatherman, that has Weatherman has, we said no because of the equipment. Wright has better equipment. Josh Williams, so I think that'd be the comparison. Like, where does Josh Williams versus Chris Wright start? If you're looking for somebody in that price range, then which one of those, if you're trying to play like four really high price guys and you're taking two punts, so which one's starting the furthest back?
Ryan Eversley and Kyle Tilley. Any love for them too?
Kyle Tilley is supposed to be a road course driver, but he damaged the car early on. I mean, it's a decent this week he's in a BJ McLeod car. Last week he was in the 99 that Harvick is driving, so it's a different program. With BJ McLeod, it's a lesser car here. He price is too high. I mean, he has potential. Can't completely write him off, but I don't think with all the other options out there, I'd rather look at like Jade Beauford, who's like a much better road course driver at that range. But it's like they put all the ringers in like the same price. Like, so LeBay's not really a ringer, but like he's pretty good road course. Karama, Beauford, Balicki, Tilly. It's like DK's like, let's all make them like randomly 6K guys, like just rank them the 6Ks for these guys and average to below average equipment who are pretty good at road courses, and we'll just throw them in the pot and see what happens.
Yeah, Kyle Tilley had them issues last week. All right, last but not least, we have Mike Lynette. This is a driver that was dealing with some issues health-wise this year, and I think he's kind of put a damper on his season, but could get a bounce back here. If he does qualify poorly, he could be in play at 8,100.
Yeah, he ended up in the grass early on in practice, and that's why his numbers like really bad. But if you look at his road course numbers, he's solid. So I'm hoping he qualifies poorly. But then during the race, I think he's got a lot of play side differential upside. So if he starts outside the top 15, I definitely really like him. He might be the final guy into the lazy man's lineup here because he fits the build. But with not like last week, he started 18th, he finished 11th. So last year he had a 12 average running position in this race. So definitely, I think he's playable. He's in he's in one of your favorite team's cars. So
yeah, Junior Motorsports. All right, guys, I think that'll do
until
it.
like half an hour before lock, where he his legs hurting him. So Josh Berry's going to drive his car, and it just shoots everything to.
That's very much into play. All right, Mega, thank you for breaking down this field here and sharing this awesome model that you do week in, week out for us. That'll probably wrap things up. Pay attention to qualifying, guys. As I stated before at the top, whatever happens in qualifying is going to dictate lineups and cores and projections from that point on. And you can get that stuff at FSI in our Discord. That link is in our Twitter handle at FSI_DFS. I am your host, TK Nation 47. That is the man behind the brains behind the operation, Mega Ruler 31. Thank you, Mega, and good luck to you today, everyone, and have a good day.
Yep. See you tomorrow for NASCAR.